Another reading of, boom, How to Lose the Planet, the Afrofuture Epic. And, yeah, the Afrofuture Epic. And the inevitable has already happened. I've lost count. I don't even know how many videos this is so far. But we carry on in chapter 2. Her grin shrunk till her mouth squeezed so tightly it was barely there. This should be one of my last questions. Why do they call this prison the Dark Arena? He tilted his head toward his right shoulder. What do you mean? Who told you that? It's a gift. I've always been able to get the right people to tell me all the wrong things. She crossed her ankles. I'm not trying to get you to leak, especially not for a little commissary money. But if you could tell me how you deal with that darkness without revealing anything that might get you touched up, I'd be grateful. His head kicked back at the journalist from a small town on the sixth moon using the terms leak and touched up, and he noticed that she talked slowly, as if every word mattered, red lips curling around sound like legs around a waist. He almost hated her for making herself more appealing. He knew she was manipulating him, but time in the segregation wing was a breathing death. Even being manipulated by a journalist was a reprieve. You're a reporter, he said. You must know that essay, Cultural Stagnancy, by Brown, Galaxy Brown. She groaned and rolled her eyes. They still teach that stupid essay in school? I don't know, but they still let people in prison read. What does stagnancy have to do with the Dark Arena? She uncrossed her ankles, slid her feet under a chair, and leaned forward. Kato focused on her glare, which he found familiar. She waved a forefinger around the room, and the aurora paint on her nail flickered between red and gold. What does stagnancy have to do with any of this? He clenched his jaw. His chains rattled as he leaned forward. He looked down at his low-tech restraints and thought they were a shadow of his thoughts. We are the uncultured who destroyed an entire planet, and the visionaries who escaped and earned death. The opening line to the essay had stayed with him because it frightened him. He looked at her. I'm nervous, Lacey. Some Nazi inkheads in here are running hot for me. They already murdered my friend. And? He bit his bottom lip. Aside from the fact that we can terraform moons but still produce Nazis who have existed for I don't know how long and used to be kids, just kids. Some of those inkheads probably grew up wanting to be journalists. She shook her head. Maybe you're making a point, I'm just not smart enough to catch it. He bit his lip again so he wouldn't grin. An abrupt suspicion teased the darker side of his sense of humor. Saying it's dark in here is just our way of saying it's dark out there, in Quest City. Maybe not dark like when it was the Four Cities, but it's dark enough out there to build a place like this. She pushed her gaze beyond him and held it. He thought she was looking at the guard or maybe the door. You're kidding, she said. You all are thinking about out there while trying to survive in here? Out there is all anybody can think about, even the people out there. That's why journalists don't usually do stories about inmates. She slid her gaze back toward him. What do you mean by that? Want to hear about my murdered friend? Tell me why it happened first. If he was a jailhouse rapist who got what's coming to him, no one cares. He shook his head. Nah, my friend was a decent man. Taught me how to survive in here. One day, the inkheads were picking on this kid. He was just a kid, even younger than me, and folk in here think I'm just a kid. He nodded. I was gonna mind my business. I always mind my business. They were beating him in the cafeteria, and I just kept eating, like it didn't bother me. But it did. Yeah. Ever listen to the sounds people make when they're being beaten? Hear them try to not sound hurt? She held her gaze. That wasn't a rhetorical question, Lacey. No, I don't know that sound. He stared at the high right corner of the room. I don't really know that sound either. I mean, I know what I heard. Man goes from grunting to moaning to crying. I don't know what that sound is. Not the way that I knew that Marlo, that was his name, was just a kid, and he didn't deserve it. If there's a sound for when metal turns to rust, I would say it's like that. He looked at Lacey. They shoved him, and he fell into me, spilling my food on the floor. Could have kept my head down, pretending like I didn't care. But you hurt them. There's only two of them. He lifted his shackled hands. Now I'm on timeout for a while. You're in here because you wouldn't kill people, she said. You refused the military order. Don't make me an angel. Why'd you refuse the order? He held his gaze. Tell me about your friend then. He'd hate me right now, he said. I must have broke every rule he taught me, fighting a battle that wasn't mine. And he got dead for it.